Hello and welcome to Thaiger Bites. This is where we get to address your questions and comments from all of our platforms on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and the Thaiger Talk forum on the website.
And a big thank you to our Thaiger Talk moderators. They do a fantastic job, all volunteers. Appreciate your work. It's also the program where we wear really silly shirts.
Well, not me, because I've got my cool Lumberjack shirt.
So recorded on Lumberjack Friday, hence this.
Yeah.
And this.
Yes, that's right. Taking us off today is a lesbian alien who says, Jay, every time you say allegedly, you should donate 100 baht to charity. Wouldn't be long before you're broke. How many times do you think we say allegedly per episode?
You?
Yeah.
Oh, many times.
No, maybe twice, I would say.
I gave you some new A words this week, like amalgamation.
Yeah.
And you say allegedly, I think, I don't know what to say. Allegedly.
Every week I'm going to try to use an unnecessarily difficult English word just to keep people guessing.
On Monday's program, note everybody, I want you to use the word ubiquitous. Just once.
Ubiquitous.
Yes, I want you to use it once.
But, okay.
Good luck.
Good luck.
I'm going to give you a different word every day to fit into the next day's program.
All right.
And you'll know.
Yeah.
I'm going to be today firing off completely randomly.
Okay.
I've got my phone open and I'm going through comments. I'm not pre-checking them. I'm just going to read them.
Okay.
Scott M.
Okay.
Do you know Scott M?
No, I know
not Scott D.
Not Scott D.
Yeah. He says, double CSA has no desire to let go of control. So this is about, I think, the double CSA who are still running the COVID strategy in Thailand, when things open, when things close, the whole Songkran restrictions. We didn't use that graph, did we, today? Anyway.
Will they cease to exist once
everything
is
they
gone?
Get their authority from the emergency decree, which is still in force until at least May the 31st. And may probably, I predict it will be continued for another 2 months at that stage. So the fact that it has no desire to let go of control. We sort of get this a lot, saying, the Thai government love COVID because they can control their citizens. The Thai government are losing zillions of baht, I don't know what the actual number is, because the tourists aren't coming. There is absolutely no interest of the Thai government economically to drag this out any longer than they believe they should. I mean, they believe, for whatever reason, that there is a sound medical reason to keep some restrictions still in place. Now, you may disagree with them, but you're not running the shop here in Thailand. They are. But when people say, it's just all about control, I don't see any reason how COVID and all the restrictions do anything to enhance a government's popularity or its economic capabilities. So, Palang Pracharat, they've got an election coming up next year. They want to get the place open as soon as they possibly can, I can assure you.
There's someone out there thinking, Tim, you're so naive.
Yeah, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid.
All right. Richard Hardy says, can I suggest Tim and Jay a topic of some concern here for expats and tourists to talk about? Why is there an upsurge in after-hours violence?
There is?
I did not know that as well.
I haven't read anything that would suggest there's any after-hours violence. Has he given any examples?
For locals or expats. But he named a topic for expats and tourists to talk about. We don't know. Have you Richard Hardy, maybe if you have some specific story you're relating to?
I mean, look, there is violence. Good heavens, there's violence everywhere.
Yeah.
But I don't know that in Thailand, which I would consider one of the safest sort of places in the world generally, or it's certainly got a reputation and a well-deserved reputation for being a safe place, even in the dark hours. I mean, you take precautions wherever you go. I mean, you've got to turn your brain on before you go walking around outside. But I wouldn't have. We'd know about it because we'd read the news stories. I haven't seen an upsurge in violence or noted it as a problem. But we'd like to hear from you if you know more about it. Travel with Adrian says, don't accuse Jay of being too slow, Mr. Newton. You're the one who had to scrap Asian news because no one was watching it. LOL.
Poor Jay for being slow. What does that have to do with Asian News Today?
I don't know. He's sort of put 13 things together there. His logo has got a TWA. That's an old American Airlines logo.
He's a pilot.
You're the one who had to scrap. Jay runs the video department. Jay has, in consultation with me, decided to put Asian News Today on the shelf for a period. As we said, we might bring it back at some stage, but we're going to try some other things in the short term. So it's been a joint decision. So
we're going to try to repackage it. Maybe not Asian News. What was it called? Asian News Today.
I wasn't wearing these flowery shirts. That was the reason.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But we're trying to fine-tune some of our other shows, especially Good Morning Thailand.
Maybe I should wear lumberjack shirts.
Add a little more class, add a little bit more production value. So,
Class.
we're constantly sitting and thinking, what can we do to not only get more views, because primarily as a business that is our target, but also to improve on the things that we currently do. So we'll come up with something. YouTube is a crazy game. I mean, the media world, one day you're the most popular kid on the block, another not so much. Yeah.
And at the moment, expats are down at least 50% from what they were pre-2020. So that's a lot of our potential viewers gone. And the number of tourists looking for information or interested in Thailand is also way down at the moment because of Omicron restrictions, blah, blah, blah. But about no one was watching it. Well, it was getting reasonable figures, averaging 5,000, 6,000 a day. That's probably not enough to really make a business out of it. And long term, we would like to expand our viewership beyond just Thailand.
That was actually one of the reasons why we made Thaiger Bites once a week, because for the amount of time and effort and the editors, our time, Tim's time, it's at the end of the day, that time could be spent better in other aspects of the business, because at the end we are a business.
Yes. So we're going to be doing weekly reviews of ladyboys in high heels driving go-karts.
Yeah. That'll get the views.
Yes, that'll get it.
All right. I've got a comment from Chike James, who's slightly upset with me, Tim.
Yes.
Now he says, Jay, please, for God's sake, stop using Nigerians as a reference whenever you talk about scams. Nigeria is 250 million people with multi-ethnic and multi-religious society. Please stop this BS. Millions of Indians are call center scammers, but I never see you use India to reference about scams. He's right. I mean,
yes.
Are we stereotyping one Nigerian prince scam? But it is a very famous scam. That's the only reason I said it. But yes, you're right. There are many call center scammers in India. There are all sorts of scammers in India and Thailand and every other country.
Nigeria sort of pinholed or typecasted themselves somewhat in the early days for being famous, whether they were Nigerians or not, but they were Nigerian prince or Nigerian finance sort of scam. So
I feel like I've upset Chike.
Might be a Nigerian.
He might be a Nigerian.
There are lovely people in Nigeria.
Oh, yeah.
And many of them come here to Thailand.
Yeah, that's right. So scammers everywhere. I hope that makes you happier.
This is completely random. Brad F. Any updates on the remote worker visa? In brackets, note, remote worker is different to digital nomad. The Thai government was looking at some long-term 10-year, sort of 5+5 year visas for people who work remote. It currently hasn't been passed by the Thai government. I believe it's been approved by the cabinet, but it hasn't been rubber stamped, and the final details haven't been worked out. So the answer is no, not at the moment, recognising that remote workers and digital nomads are different. For digital nomads and remote workers at the moment, you've only got the current structure of existing visas, and you probably need to make sure your immigration officer is in a good mood on the day. And as we know in Thailand, anything to do with visas, you're going to get slightly different answers at different immigration officers with different people on different days. It's just the way it is. So sadly, no, not yet, Brad.
All right. Eric Dufresne and YL have comments for us. Now, earlier in the week, Tim, when we were doing GMT, we asked, do people actually prefer watching GMT or listening to GMT, as it's available on podcast, as well as you can watch us on YouTube. Because, do you remember that video snafu we had in the middle where we lost image and people could just hear our voice? So I'd asked this question, and we've got some responses. Now, YL says, I prefer watching GMT on YouTube rather than listening to your podcast. It's much funnier looking at your expressions compared to just listening to your voice. No to podcast. He just likes looking at our funny faces.
Yeah, because we do tend to, from time to time, say something that we may have read out of the news, but make a face that may give you the impression that we don't believe a word of it. And you don't get that nuance on a podcast.
True. But Eric Dufresne says, hi guys, you asked if it mattered. I don't normally watch anymore, but I do listen to the GMT podcast every morning on the way to work. When I get home, I'll watch 2 Minutes Thailand or any other segment that sounded like it had visual interest. Like when Tim went rogue a few episodes ago and stalked the studio with his camera in the middle of a GMT episode.
Well, it's got up and turned the camera around. It was hardly stalked. But we get it. I mean, look, everything we do here is a bit of a project in motion, and we try different things. We try to be natural and normal and honest, and that's about all we can really do. I've found the negative ones, Jay. I'm sorry. Matthew says, the land of smiles has one of the highest suicide rates. Coincidence? That's not correct. Starting to think the Thaiger is just another propaganda machine. Well, he doesn't give any examples. We have reported about suicide rates in Thailand. Thailand does not have one of the highest suicide rates, so you're incorrect with that, Matthew. As far as us being a propaganda machine, if we are a propaganda machine, and if we are the voice of the Thai government, as we've been accused often of being, and we've been equally often accused by some people saying we are far too critical of the Thai government, so we can't seem to win. But if we are a propaganda machine, we haven't received the checks lately. So if the Thai government are sending us checks to spread their message, could they please send the checks marked to me, and then I'll sort it out.
Okay.
Thanks, Matthew. I'm picking these completely at random.
No. I actually quickly Googled which countries do have the highest suicide rate, and Lesotho, which I did not. Yes, which not many people are familiar with, is number one currently, unfortunately.
Other countries?
The most well-known country in this current list would be South Korea, at number 4.
Yes, South Korea and Singapore, from memory, have sort of ended up in quite high in the list in the past. Mm-hmm. Thailand, I sort of think maybe up in the sort of the top third, perhaps. Being a Buddhist country, of course, there is somewhat of the disincentive sometimes there isn't for people contemplating suicide, because Buddhists, of course, believe that they're going to have another life in the future.
All right. We've got Sith 3PO, a big Star Wars fan. He says...
Who? Sith 3PO?
Yeah. Sith 3PO is actually talking about the plastic now, how earlier this week we spoke about a news article that said that Thailand has started banning all styrofoam and single-use plastics from national parks. Now he goes, the problem isn't plastic, which is an excellent product. It is the lack of a system to collect plastic and recycle it
or
that
dispose
is the
of
problem. Yeah. Put more bins for recycling all over the place and educate people.
I would say that Thailand has the fewest number of rubbish bins, garbage bins, trash bins, whatever you might call them, in the world. Mm-hmm. I'm always looking for a place to throw my trash, rubbish, garbage.
Recycling is great, but why not reusing? If we had a cloth bag, you could just use the cloth bag again and again and clean it every week.
Yeah. How many people do that, though?
Not many.
Matt, I have to admit, I know I should do it. In fact, the Thaiger is selling a very nice Thaiger branded bag, a canvas bag. Be perfect.
Tote bag.
Tote bag, I'm sorry. Be perfect for your groceries, but I don't. I usually just sort of walk home. I usually try and refuse the plastic bag and walk home with about 7 things. Because I go down there for one thing.
Pockets.
Yeah, I go down for one and come back with 17 things.
Okay.
3 things. 2 from Fred. This is completely random. Tim has crystal balls. Question mark, question mark, question mark.
I think he's referring to the TAT crystal ball.
I was looking for the crystal ball. Yes, thank you, Fred. He said, what about laptops on planes? Yes, you can take your laptops on planes, but they will get checked at security. You've got to put them in a separate basket and pass them through.
That's right.
So if you've got naughty pictures on there, they might be able to see them on the X-ray.
Don't do it.
Sorry, there was another one about Tim here. Eve Chatelet said, Tim, you missed an acting career. To which two people responded, he's the reason I don't watch regularly anymore. He's embarrassing.
Oh, no.
And that was from Davo Cooked.
Davo.
This is completely random.
Mean,
Today we're just picking these messages out of nowhere.
All right. Talking about amnesty.
Oh, this is the amnesty to allow people who have been blocked.
That's exactly right.
To come back onto the channel.
That's right. Hans C. Schellenberg says, my vote is to not let the worst chat offenders back in. But honestly, the resulting explosion of vile troll insanity on chat will be amusing to watch. Won't be good for the Thaiger brand, but it will be quite a show. He's got a point there. Now, allowing those people in, if they are still interested in trolling us or, just being hateful, I guess, people that watch us often and, viewers that regularly watch us would defend the Thaiger brand and, just general hateful comments. But then are we making a mistake allowing that to happen in the first place?
I just noticed this week that Elon Musk, because he said that he doesn't like Twitter anymore because they stifle freedom of speech.
But it makes a lot of money.
That's nonsense, or that's hateful, and we have to remove it. You can't. Freedom of speech doesn't just mean you can say anything. There is a responsibility. For us as a business, we have to make sure that libelous, incorrect, or just completely hateful comments don't sit on our platform, because that can get us a complex question. But generally, we support criticism. We support different points of view. But if people just want to post nonsense or stuff that's not factually correct, no matter if they think it's right or wrong, somebody, and that's us in our case, has to be the umpire. We do our best.
All right.
Okay, another one. Andy Bull, and this is talking about yesterday's Good Morning Thailand. Love the show, guys and gals. I am poor, saving for my next trip to Thailand. I can't become a member, sorry. Andy, that's okay. Save your money for your flight. Click the like button, subscribe, and do all that stuff, and we'll be delighted to see you here in the country. Save up your money, and maybe you can become a member in the future.
Sure. Here we go. We've got a comment here from Sumlak. That's my last comment for today. And Sumlak says, I get the impression from GMT that the vast immediately upon being able to. Why would any hotel... Well, Sumlak, to briefly answer your question, a lot of the famous five-star hotels and hotels that have good business in places like Bangkok, Phuket, and the famous areas of Thailand.
Pattaya, Chiang Mai,
Isan, everywhere. Bars, they've got famous restaurants, they have wedding lounges, parties, and events. So it's very important for most hotels so that they can function properly to the best of their abilities.
I think there's going to be a lot of analysis somewhere in the future as they try and figure out all this work that's been done to the select hotels. And it's usually the 4- and 5-star hotels that have been able to afford to upgrade their services and open the doors. And it's all these 1, 2, and 3 star hotels won't reopen, or they'll be sold off and they'll be reopened by somebody else. That's just the way it is.
I think it also helps tourists who... Some tourists are looking for...
Don't want to know about all that anymore.
Well, they do, but not everyone's wearing face shields or those, full... It's just they've got the certification. Masks, but they're all wearing masks. That's it. That's pretty much it.
And then it does with safety. However, Thailand, compared to China, makes Thailand feel like the UK. Well, again, there are some countries in, particularly East Asia, China and South Korea are two. Thailand is another one in Southeast Asia, which are in a different phase of the COVID response. Their cases at the moment are going up, and the death rates are also going up in those countries, and the countries are trying to cope with those particular situations. Of course, armed with the knowledge levels of COVID. So I don't think it's fair to say that Thailand COVID response has been more about control. It's I don't know where they get these ideas. Paki says, this is the next, I'm just reading these in order. What is the southern insurgency issue? I don't understand what's happening in that area. Get ready to answer this. Can y'all, make a video explaining it? Or someone tell in the comment section, please. 2 people. He answered, Google sucks. I want info from Thai people from Thailand. Spicy Road said one word, that word which I won't mention. So here is southern insurgency in 30 seconds. Over to you, Jay.
There's a southern insurgency in the south of Thailand.
There has been a long-running geographical and religious over what is basically the 3 southernmost provinces of Yala, help me out here, yes. Patani and Naritawat.
Satun.
No, not Satun.
No, not
it was
Satun.
It was Yala,
Patani, definitely.
Patani and Naritawat.
Yeah. And those are very Muslim prominent provinces as well. Yeah,
and I mean, we're talking about the area that borders with northern Malaysia. So like open fighting and terrorism, bombs placed on the side of roads, attacks. Some 7,000 people have died in, it's not quite a civil war, but it's geographically a civil war that is both fighting over the borders and the ownership of that land, whether it should be Malaysian or Thai, and also the religious dimension of the differences in culture between the Muslims and the Buddhists in Thailand. But there are a lot of Malaysia. So it's a long brewing insurgency. It's called the Southern Insurgency. Is that a pretty good, quick explanation?
That is. Perhaps it is a and to talk about it in her 2 minutes Thailand segment. Just
2 minutes is not enough.
To get a quick, brief history.
Thaiger, Southern Insurgency, you'll see a long article which goes through the history of the problems. I know done, so there has been a 40-day ceasefire signed by both sides, and that's really good to see. Let's hope that can be extended to a longer time. How they'll ever sort out that particular problem, well, it's more violent and in some ways more complex than what's been happening between Israel and Palestine, where the number of people killed in the southern insurgency is almost as high. So it's one of those conflicts that people don't often hear about, but it perhaps deserves more world publicity. But thanks for the question. Right. Completely random. Will I do one more?
I think
I'm just going to go scroll. Where do we end up? They're getting rid of the wrong test. Get rid of the test and go, BS, says Sean McNeil. So this is in relation to the Thai government from the 1st of April got test when you arrive. They say most of the comments say they should have got rid of the on-arrival PCR test and the accompanying prepayment of an SHA Plus hotel rather than the pre-travel one, noting that there are some airlines that still require a PCR test to get on their planes. That was from Sean. Thank you very much.
All right.
How'd we go? At random comments.
Well done. That actually worked.
It did work.
It had an element of surprise. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we hope you enjoyed today's episode of Thaiger Bites. Please click the like button, share it, comment. Let us know your feedback on all of our platforms on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Thaiger Talk Forum. Would like to thank Coffee Culture for sponsoring the show, as always. You can buy the best roast coffee at coffeeculture.asia.
Yeah, we hadn't thanked the plant.
Henrietta,
thank you very much.
Yes. Henrietta's
Be careful how you
us.
move it.
Oh,
be gentle.
Okay.
And thank you for watching, because